Now there was a man in Jerusalem called Simeon, who was righteous and devout. He was waiting for the consolation of Israel, and the Holy Spirit was on him. It had been revealed to him by the Holy Spirit that he would not die before he had seen the Lord's Messiah. Moved by the Spirit, he went into the temple courts. When the parents brought in the child Jesus to do for him what the custom of the law required, Simeon took him in his arms and praised God, saying, "Sovereign Lord, as you have promised, you may now dismiss your servant in peace. For my eyes have seen your salvation, which you have prepared in the sight of all nations, a light for revelation to the Gentiles and the glory of your people Israel." The child's father and mother marveled at what was said about him. Then Simeon blessed them and said to Mary, his mother, "This child is destined to cause the falling and rising of many in Israel, and to be a sign that will be spoken against, so that the thoughts of many hearts will be revealed, and a sword will pierce your own soul too." There was also a prophet, Anna, the daughter of Penuel of the tribe of Asher. She was very old. She had lived with her husband 7 years after her marriage, and then was a widow until she was 84. She never left the temple, but worshipped night and day, fasting and praying. Coming up to them at that very moment, she gave thanks to God and spoke about the child to all who were looking forward to the redemption of Jerusalem. When Joseph and Mary had done everything required by the law of the Lord, they returned to Galilee, to their own town of Nazareth. And the child grew and became strong. He was filled with wisdom, and the grace of God was on him. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God.
Thank you very much, Martin. Good evening. My name's Tom. We've not met before. It's lovely to have you here at Holy Trinity Church. Now, I wonder what moment you are waiting for this Christmas time. My guess is if you are a certain age, you are waiting for that point on Christmas morning when you come downstairs and the tree that you saw the previous night is as it was, but for the fact that underneath stands presents upon presents upon presents. Or perhaps if you're a little bit older, your moment of anticipation is not so much for when the presents are finally seen by those who are receiving them, but will be the moment where you know at least they're safely wrapped up and ready for the next day. For some of us, it will be that moment when we clock off on Christmas Eve. We've put in the hours, we've pushed through to the final email that needs replying to in our inbox, and we can walk out the door of the office, switch off notifications on our phone, and relax. For others of us, it will be that moment when finally we have those far-flung members of our family under one roof with us to celebrate Christmas. And yet, for others of us, my guess is that even as we feel maybe some positive anticipation around Christmas, that anticipation is also mixed with a feeling of, dread. We are, as much as the voices on the radio speak of the countdown to Christmas with excitement day by day, we feel ourselves bracing ourselves for what's to come. And the moment that we're waiting for is when we will breathe a sigh of relief and Christmas will be done. Well, the people in our Bible reading that we've just heard were waiters. They were people who, the primary thing we know about them is that they were waiting. Now, Simeon and Anna, I don't think are the most popular Bible Christmas characters. Raise a hand if you ever played Simeon or Anna in a nativity play. As I thought, nobody. Raise a hand if you even had Simeon and Anna in your school nativity play. No, there we go, one. Very good, there we go. You've got the most biblically accurate nativity play of the rest of us. The rest of us, they get passed over. No child gets sent home told that they need to grow an aged beard to be Simeon. And yet I want to suggest this evening it's worth us paying attention to these lesser-known Bible characters. Because whatever it is that we are waiting for this evening, well, that longing finds its true answer in the thing Simeon and Anna were holding out for. We heard it in verse 25 of our reading. If we could have that on the screen, please, Zena. Simeon was waiting for the consolation of Israel. Now, when I think of consolation, I think of consolation prizes, which generally aren't something you're generally aiming at. Consolation prizes are the things you get given when you don't win. No one really wants to get a consolation prize. It's to make you feel a little bit better about not winning. But the consolation of Israel was something different. Consolation just means comfort. Comfort. It's the words that we heard in our first Bible reading from Isaiah. The promise of God's kind comfort in a broken world. It's what we sing of when we sing in that Christmas carol, good tidings of comfort and joy. But what kind of comfort does Christmas bring? For many people, even when Christmas is a very welcome thing, the best it can offer us in the way of comfort is distraction. To put work away for a few days, to put stresses to the back of our minds until January, to fill our senses with the food of a festive table, to lift our spirits with the vibe of a Christmas carol. Distraction. But the comfort they were waiting for was something more. It wasn't simply to distract our emotions and our feelings for a few hours or a few days. No, this was real comfort. Comfort that speaks to the pain and the darkness in our lives. You see, Simeon and Anna, they were gathered with lots of people at a service maybe in some ways a little bit like this. They were in the midst of the temple festivities, but unlike many people around them focused on their sacrifices and their festivals and their celebrations, their focus was not the mood of the moment, but what God had promised. The promise of real comfort. Imagine, if you can, with me, a village far away from cities and medical care, struck with disease. And person after person, house after house, comes down with the same ailment. Temperatures rise. People come out with signs of the disease of their body. And those in that village feel powerless to help them. They send out signals for help on the local radio. And then one day, someone looks in the distance and they see comfort appear. A helicopter coming with medical supplies to meet their needs. That is the kind of comfort that Simeon and Anna were waiting for. Not simply distraction, not simply someone to come near and to take your mind off your problems for a moment, but the remedy to what is broken and wrong in our world. And yet, as Simeon laid eyes on that comfort, it looked different, very different from what we might expect. I wonder if you noticed it as Martin read. In amongst that crowded temple, all those people gathered there, he picks out one family, one very ordinary family. He goes over to them and takes from them their newborn son, looks at him and says, I can die happy. I can die at peace because my eyes have seen your salvation. Looking down at this fragile, tiny baby, he can say that all I have been waiting for all my life, a comfort big enough to meet all that is wrong in this world, is answered in this tiny child. In this child, God's kind comfort comes near to us. Now, when you're growing up, there is a lesson you must learn as a child if you are to be entrusted to open Christmas presents. It's a very basic skill, but it is vitally important. The ability to tell the difference between wrapping paper and what's inside. Now, if you have young children, you might not yet trust them to do this for themselves yet, because it is very important. Wrapping paper, you don't mind if they tear it with all the energy and ferocity and vigor that they can muster, ripping it off to tiny, tiny, tiny shreds, chucking it aside to find what's inside. You don't want them to do that with the presents. I don't know how many parents there have been here who have had the experience of getting the bag of wrapping paper that your children have torn through to find that check that their aunt or uncle said was wrapped into that present with them. You're looking, really, really hoping that they haven't managed to tear that up into tiny shreds. Or that book bought from an antique shop. A potential family heirloom ripped to shreds by an over-eager 5-year-old. It is vitally important to tell the difference between the presents and the wrapping in which it comes. And when it comes to the comfort of Christmas, we need to learn to do the same thing. Because Jesus so often appears to be merely the pattern on the wrapping paper, not the precious gift inside. He often appears to be the one who simply contributes to the mood of the season, whether in a crib on a nativity set, whether the dolly in the children's nativity play, whether the name sung in a carol. He's part of the wrapping paper. The wrapping paper's nice. It makes things seem sparkly and attractive, but it's not the real substance. 100 adverts will tell you that the substance of Christmas, such as it is food and family and presents. And yet, as wonderful as those things are, Simeon and Anna knew that to treat Jesus as mere wrapping paper, to get past him to the real thing, to cast him to one side, is to cast aside the priceless gift of true comfort. And yet, how different this fragile, tiny child looks to what we imagine will solve the problems of our world. And yet, like many a small gift, size is a poor guide to value. Because God came near to be what you and I most deeply need. God came near to be human like us. God's kind comfort comes as a human being like us. He was a human being very much like us. From a very ordinary Jewish family, the offering that they bring to the temple is the offering not of kings or even of those who are well off in society, but of those who are poor. He lived a very ordinary childhood. At the end of our reading, in verse 42, we heard the child grew and became strong and was filled with wisdom, and the grace of God was on him. Like so many other children, he grew. He became stronger. He first had to be carried. Then he mastered crawling, and finally he took his first tottering steps. Perhaps you can imagine the door frame in Nazareth, notch after notch, as he grew taller and taller and taller, measured by his proud parents. He was filled with wisdom, learning carpentry perhaps from his father, learning to speak. And he knew God's grace on him. He knew from his early years God's smile and love. That precious to him was not just that his parents loved him, but that he knew God as his Father in heaven. Jesus' life was a life much like yours and mine. As supernatural as the Christmas story is, we need to see that Jesus was not just God dressing up as a human being. It was God knowing human life from the inside. The awkwardness of our teenage years. Those moments of delight and joy that make you want to jump and punch the air. Moments of warmth and companionship with family and with friends. But also moments of shame. Moments of sorrow. Moments of deep pain. He knew a human life just like yours, just like mine, but with one crucial difference. It was a human life lived without a hint of wrong. That's the remedy that you and I needed. That as that helicopter arrives, touching down in that village, out comes what seems like a very small package, and yet it is precious, because in this package is a vial. So small you could fit it in your handbag. And yet this vial, combined with a needle, has the power to cure the disease that is condemning that village to death. And this small child, as small as he seems, as unimportant as he seems, as ordinary as he seems, is the antidote you and I need to what is wrong in our world, to what is wrong with us. You see, what we needed is someone like us, but who wouldn't fail like we do. Someone who would live knowing God's smile every moment, every day that they lived, every moment, every breath they breathed, would know God's smile upon them because they lived perfectly as God's Son. And yet this one would come not simply to live our life, but to die our death. An antidote often comes through the power of death. It looks often very much like the disease it's meant to cure, and as Jesus would grow up and hang upon the cross, he looked simply like another example of all that is wrong in this world. A good man put to death. And yet as he hung upon that cross, he died the death that we deserved, so that he might overcome death. That by rising from the dead, he might offer to you and me a hope beyond all that is wrong in this world. An answer to our failures and our shame. Healing to our broken relationships. The antidote even to death itself. As Simeon held this little child in his hands, the one who he held, he knew, was the antidote to death itself, the one with the power to rescue.